Hi y'all, my name is Katy Rowe-Schurwanz. I'm the product manager for FamilyTreeDNA. Today, I want to look at YDNA and surnames, why your genetic cousins might not share your last name. YDNA tests provide you with matching and origin information for your direct paternal line. Because YDNA testing looks at DNA that's passed down from father to son, and because in our modern society, surnames or last names are also passed down patrilineally, most of us expect our YDNA matches to also share our surname. But that's not always the case. To understand why, we're going to examine the history of surnames and how it can affect our match list. First, let's go over what YDNA is and what YDNA testing can do in genetic genealogy. YDNA is the genetic material that's found in the Y chromosome. It's passed down from father to son only, so it follows the direct male line. Your father, his father, and so on, back to the beginning of human history, with a few changes over time. Because of how it's passed down, it can be used to trace your patrilineal family line back dozens of generations. It'll match you to other males who share a common ancestor with you on your father's line. You'll be able to share genealogical research with each other to confirm or expand your paper trails, potentially discovering new ancestors on your family tree. And you can trace the origins of your father's line, following genealogical ancestors' migrations back through recent history, and then ancient ancestors' migrations back to the beginning of human history. So most of us expect that our YDNA matches are also going to share our same surname. That's not always the case though, and there's a number of reasons why you might see different last names showing up in your YDNA match list, like in this example from my father's test. By looking into the history of our surnames, we can find clues to why this is. Often when we as genealogists are thinking about the origin of our surnames, we're thinking about a person, the first person in our family who had that last name and passed it down over the generations. The linguistic history of your surname can help you learn more about that ancestor and potentially guide you to their origin. How that history affects who you see on your YDNA match list can vary based on what type of surname your ancestors held. So let's take a look at that history and at some of the most common types of last names. Surnames are extremely important to us as genealogists. These family names help us identify our ancestors and trace our past. They connect us to specific locations and cultures and help shape who we are. But surnames haven't always been around, and even once they were adopted, they weren't always static or fixed. So they didn't stay the same from one generation to the next. Surnames did exist in some ancient cultures, like China, Greece, and the Roman Empire, and also in the early Middle Ages in Ireland and parts of the Middle East. But much of the world did not adapt static fixed surnames until the late Middle Ages, which usually happened for tax or inheritance purposes. And some cultures and countries didn't adopt them until the modern era, as recently as the 1930s. So you can easily have a grandparent or a great-grandparent whose birth surname is different from their father's birth surname. Before fixed surnames, our ancestors still came up with ways to differentiate each other based on our given or first names. There are many different ways that this presented itself, and these eventually became fixed surnames once the laws changed. In many parts of the world, patronyms predate the use of a fixed hereditary surname. They're found all over the world: Africa, Europe, the Middle East, and South and East Asia. This chart shows just a small example from a few language families. Patronyms are a type of genealogy record in themselves. There are two main ways that this naming convention can appear. In the first, your given name is followed by a prefix meaning son of, daughter of, or descendant of, and then your father's given name. In the second, your given name is followed by your father's given name, and then a suffix meaning son of, daughter of, or descendant of. Some cultures also add in grandfathers and beyond. So Welsh patronyms would trace up to 7 generations of patrilineal ancestors, making it really easy to go back in that family tree. But eventually, laws changed to require fixed surnames. When the change occurred, people who were genetically related through their YDNA ended up with different surnames because they were based on their father's name, And then they continue to pass those varied last names down to their modern day descendants. Toponymic surnames are last names that are based on a geographic location or feature and are also found in cultures worldwide. Toponymic surnames described either where a person was from or where they currently lived, which can sometimes help you determine where your ancestors are from. Many of these last names are easily recognizable at first glance. Hill, Brook, Stone, Woods, London. But many are not so easy to recognize. They may be based on or include a word for a geographical feature in an older language or dialect. For example, the surname Trelawney includes the Cornish tre, T-R-E, which refers to a settlement. The suffix combe comes from the Proto-Germanic and Old English word for a valley. The surname Chisholm is especially interesting. It's based on a town in southern Scotland whose name comes from Old English words for cheese and a piece of dry land and a fen. So it means land that was good for dairy farming in the middle of a marsh. Similar to patronymic surnames, when laws changed and these became static, you ended up with many males who were genetically related through YDNA who had different last names because they lived in different areas. And those names were passed down to their modern day descendants. Do you have any bakers, millers, or tailors in your family tree? These are examples of occupational surnames. These are last names that were taken or given based on the job that your ancestor had. These jobs occur worldwide in various cultures, and so do occupational surnames. Some can be easily identifiable at first glance because they're jobs that we still have today, like baker or fisher. Others are less obvious, like Kemp, which is the Middle English word for a warrior or jouster. Your occupation isn't something that comes from your DNA, so when surnames became fixed, you ended up with many men with the same occupational surname who were not genetically related, and many men with different surnames who were genetically related. Let's take a look at clan surnames as well. While the word clan comes from a Gaelic word, clans are found in cultures worldwide, not just in Ireland and Scotland. Clans are groups of people who have a common affiliation and who may be genetically related. The may is really important here. In Scottish clans, the clan membership is determined through your surname. So if you were born into Clan MacLeod, your surname would be MacLeod, based on the chief's last name, even if you're not patrilineally descended from the clan's chief. If another clan took over the land where you lived, or if you married into a different clan, you might take the surname of the new clan chieftain. Those who have a surname based on a clan name today will often find many different last names in their YDNA matches. And just like we've seen surnames come about for occupations and locations, some surnames have evolved from descriptive nicknames that were given to an ancestor. These could be based on a physical trait, or they could be based on a personality trait or habit. These names could change over time too. So John the Younger could become John the Elder as he ages, and John Brown could become John White as his hair loses its pigmentation. So if your surname is something that could be descriptive, it's likely that you're going to see many different last names in your YDNA match list. Because YDNA is able to reach back dozens of generations to before surnames were adopted or standardized, you're often going to find matches in your list, especially at the lowest matching levels, who have different surnames from you. And for cultures who standardize surnames only within the past couple hundred years, you'll often find matches with different last names at the higher match levels as well. Some of your YDNA matches may share your surname, especially if you've recruited all your family members to test. But what do you do about the other matches that don't share your surname? How do you make sense of it? First, start with yourself. Look up the history of your surname. Is it patronymic? Is it based on an occupation or a location? Some surnames may fit into multiple categories depending on where your ancestors are from. We can look at my birth surname, Rowe, as an example. It's found in many places with different meanings. In Ireland, it means someone with red hair. In Cornwall, where my Rowe ancestors are from, it's someone who lived by a hedgerow or a row of houses. And in Germany, it means renowned wolf. And then there's some more meanings for more origins if I keep digging. I just did a quick Google search for this, and you can start with that when looking into your surname. Your most recent common ancestor with your Y-DNA matches may be estimated to have lived before surnames were adopted or before they became standardized, when they became static and fixed from one generation to the next in your ancestor's culture. There are two different reports that you can use to find that estimate. Y37 and Y111 testers can use the FTDNATiP report that's linked in their Y-DNA matches page. Big Y testers can use the match time tree linked in their Discover reports. In your Y-DNA match list, next to each match, you'll see a calendar icon. That icon will take you to the FTDNATiP report, which is shown here. Based on how many of your Y-STRs are the same, our scientists have estimated when you likely share a common ancestor with your Y-STR matches. In this example, the match I'm investigating is estimated to share a common ancestor who was born sometime between 1500 and 1850. I've done the genealogy research, and our common ancestor was born in 1798, which is right in that range. And for those who have tested at the highest Y-DNA level, the Big Y700, your match time tree report will use more advanced science to estimate when your most recent common ancestor is likely to have lived based on the additional DNA tested at the Big Y level. This example here from my dad's test, none of his Big Y matches share our surname. With the match time tree, I've discovered that his closest matches, all of them are estimated to have shared a most recent common ancestor who was born around 1,000 years ago. So that's definitely before surnames became standardized in the region that our ancestors are from. And some quick research shows that all of our surnames could be toponymic. One of the most helpful resources at FamilyTreeDNA are group projects. Group projects are genealogical research projects where everyone can collaborate and contribute. There are over 13,000 group projects at FamilyTreeDNA in several different categories. The two most useful types here are going to be surname projects and geographical projects. Surname projects focus on a specific last name and its variants to find connections between different branches and to trace its origins. And geographical projects are looking at a specific region. Often these can help if your matches connect prior to when surnames were standardized, especially if you're from somewhere with more recent usage of patronymic surnames or toponymic surnames. There's lots of resources out there to help you on your genetic genealogy journey. FamilyTreeDNA's blog has articles on various types of surnames, tips for researching in different areas of the world, and more about our various products and tools. You can find a lot of information with FamilyTreeDNA's group projects. If you're looking for something specific on a certain surname, this is definitely the place to go. And our Help Center has lots of information to help you navigate your YDNA reports, including the FTDNATiP report and the match time tree, as well as instructions for how to join group projects and understand the reports within projects. Roberta Estes has two great resources. The first is a book, The Complete Guide to FamilyTreeDNA, and the second is her blog, DNA Explained. Our general manager, Dave Vance, also has a book that's specifically on YDNA, The Genealogist's Guide to YDNA Testing for Genetic Genealogy. And Diane Southard's Your DNA Guide offers classes, workshops, quick guides, and a book as well. Sign into FamilyTreeDNA today and start uncovering the story of your surname that's found in your YDNA.